Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Damon, and today we're talking with my good friend Jimmy, talking about both our journeys in and out of church and the endless connections between culture and spirituality. Welcome to Everyone is Talking About God. I'm your host, Damon Garcia, and I'm here in Los Angeles recording, usually in Santa Maria, California. I drove 2.5 hours to meet up with my friend, Jimmy. Say what's up.
How's it going, everybody?
Yes, Jimmy was really shocked that I drove 2.5 hours.
I would never normally do that for anybody. Like, maybe my sister, maybe. 2.5 hours is like, you're pushing it at that point.
But you also don't even have a car.
Oh, I haven't had a car in like 2 years now. I can't talk. Yeah, I'm not the authority of distance and time and love.
Right. I like driving though.
That's the thing, man. Like, I recently came back from New York, and I don't miss being in an environment that necessitates a car, man. I can't do it.
Yeah. You grew up here in LA.
I grew up here in LA though. Yeah, I'm a Valley boy.
A Valley boy.
Valley boy.
I don't know what part of LA are we in?
This is the northern side. So the San Fernando Valley is north of what is considered the true LA, because we're LA County. So like we're one of the stepsisters of what is considered the real LA. But that's always up for debate. Like East LA considers themselves the real LA, and then Northeast LA is in the running for that because Highland Park is there, and so it's, I don't know, it's a never-ending battle of what is truly LA. And maybe somebody who's actually from LA would be like, no, that guy doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. Like,
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but
it could get really complicated really fast.
Yeah.
But you recently moved to New York for a while. How long were you there?
7 months on the day, I think. Like, wasn't too long, but when you're there, it feels like forever, man. Like, time went way slower than it did for most people here in California. They're like, dude, you just left and you're back. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it felt like I was there for 5 years. Like, I had a whole other life there, man. Like, I was a completely different person than who you're talking to right now, to be honest.
You earlier when we were driving, you got on the phone with your friend in New York, and your voice changed, your lingo changed, everything changed.
Everything changed, yeah. Like, so I have a nickname here on these streets, and I'm being facetious with that, but they call me Young Jims. It stems from the fact that I've always been the youngest of my friends, and the fact that we had a friend that always said young for everything. He'd be like, oh, that young door. And I'd be like, yeah, man, that young door. And in New York, I was known as Uptown Jims, because I would take the train uptown to the Bronx. So, like, Uptown Jims is an entirely different entity that you got to experience in the car.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's not even, like, full New York. Like, I didn't go full New York on you, man. I didn't go full Uptown Jims. You just got a smidge, bro, a taste.
I know.
Sampler.
It was epic, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
But I wanted to especially talk to you on this podcast because I feel like we have somewhat similar backgrounds in the sense that we grew up in an evangelical world, and then a whole bunch of doubt came into our spiritual journey, and we explored and we learned, and then we left. And in your case, you then went to New York, and then you came back. But you're really interesting to me in the fact that you have been extremely fascinated with culture ever since I've known you.
Yeah, even way before that too, man.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're like the only other person that I know besides myself that is fascinated in culture, because I often find myself in conversations where I'm bringing up all this stuff going on in the world and pop culture and music and art, and I'm like the only one who knows what I'm talking about. And I think you're in a lot of those conversations too, right?
Yeah, no. If it's not with you, because I know we talked about Young Thug on Twitter one time.
I don't remember that.
I'm not even a big Young Thug fan. We can talk about that sometime. But I've always been known as the culture guy. I had a professor that I was living with at my Bible college. Names are discretion, I guess, at this point. But he would always tell me, he's like, there's always a couple of ways to navigate a conversation with you, and it's either about Latino culture, counterculture, or just culture in general. Like, that's the only things you ever like to talk about. So he would always question me. He's like, why are you at Bible college, bro, when you don't care necessarily about the Bible per se, because you care more about culture? And I was just like, that's just how I am. Like, that's just how I grew up. It's interesting because I will say that my interest in all things like knowing what's going on in the world, it actually stemmed from an obsession with like nostalgia, I'd say, because growing up, we were so poor we couldn't afford cable. So I would watch just like, you know, KTLA 5 shows. That's how, like, I got on the Friends train before all the Netflix kids did. And as I got older, my mom finally was busting her butt enough for us to get a cable package. And I used to watch VH1 Classic. You ever watch VH1? Yeah. So they do like a lot of throwback music videos and stuff like that. And so it, like, from that moment on, it propelled me to just being like, what else is going on in the world? And it was never just like a thing. I never made a choice to just be like, let's talk about culture. It's just always been ingrained, force-fed to me, I guess, you know, by television, to just be like, what is going on in the world around us? How has hip-hop changed? How has, you know, rock and roll changed? And all this bunch of weird stuff, man. I don't know how to describe it to you. It's just been a gradual process of just becoming cultural, Jimmy.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Well, it seems like it's funny to me that you had a Bible college teacher tell you, why are you here? It seems like you're interested in culture. Because to me, it's all connected, very much so. Like, you have to be talking about culture if you're going to talk about religion.
Yeah, that was kind of my angle at that school.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was like my calling card, my known for, like, oh, Jimmy could watch Donnie Darko and tell you how the gospel is connected in that movie. Like,
I was totally that guy too. When I was going to the discipleship program I was in, which involved taking online Bible college classes with the college that you were physically attending.
Yeah.
And I was always watching movies and TV and thinking about, and I would write blog posts about those kind of connections. Like, I remember writing the gospel connection with the movie Warm Bodies, the zombie movie.
Yeah.
How, like, that's a message of grace. And then there was I wrote one about the Dark Knight on or the Dark Knight Rises on WordPress, and it like blew up.
Really?
And like the WordPress put it on their front page, and I got like thousands of followers from that. And then I just kind of let go of the blog. But
as we do.
Yeah, and yeah, I was always extremely fascinated by that. And what's funny, actually, on that post, that just got tons of comments from strangers. And I remember one of the first ones was, he said, "Sorry, mate, this is pop theology."
Pop theology. Yeah. That would be my descriptor on my business card.
Which is funny because he meant it as like an insult.
Oh no, of course. Nobody says pop theology with a seriousness, you know, unless it's us, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think it's funny when people, I mean, there is versions of theology that's talking about culture and art and media that is corny and stupid. But I think it's when they purposely change the message of this stuff in order to make it fit.
Yeah.
Like they've tried their hardest to find a way to put their own narrative onto art instead of saying, what is the art saying and how is it connected with everything else?
Huh.
Which I think we do.
No, totally.
Yeah. And so it's of course it's connected. And because of that, throughout my life, I've felt kind of loneliness, a strange loneliness, because I could easily be in these conversations of deep theology and religion and totally fit in, and I could easily be in these deep conversations about pop culture and art and stuff, but there was a loneliness because I didn't have any friends who could be in both like me.
Well, I'm sorry about that, because I mean, you got me now.
But have you ever felt like that?
To be honest with you, kind of not really. Like, I don't mean to just be like, hey, fuck, like, sorry. Like,
no, I'm just saying, that's my story.
Yeah, no, because I don't know, say it's cosmic, say it's divine intervention, but I had a circle around me, like, the people I was living with in my dorm were like-minded people. Like my buddy Adam Amonte, we've done some podcasting together back in the day. You can't find that stuff anymore, sorry guys. But he's the same way, man. He'll, like, you know, go to the movies by himself. He'll see like the Mr. Rogers movie, even though there was a little bit of a gospel message in there anyway, because Mr. Rogers like was a believer. But like, I just threw out the first movie I know he had seen recently. But he'll go into a movie theater and then just be like, man, that's crazy. Like, remember that scene where Spider-Man just like didn't kill the Green Goblin? And you're like, yeah. He's like, that's Jesus on the cross, man. Like, and we're not heavy into those kind of conversations as much anymore, but definitely in the past, because we've been out of college for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
So we've known each other since 2012. So in the time that we've known each other, that's always been like our emphasis. We used to actually did you ever hear about Vinyl Church that we did?
No.
Ooh, stupid name. stupid name. We got a lot of flack for it because some people were like, you can't call it a church if it's like not all inclusive, and we're like, whoever said it was non all inclusive?
Yeah.
And some guy was like, oh, I don't collect vinyl. I'm like, you don't have to collect vinyl to come to Vinyl Church, my guy. Like, you can just come and be present in the space, which was the goal. So what we would do is, to make a long story short, we would pick certain people to come and present a record, a song of their choosing, and they would explain to us what it means to them in their current life or what it's meant to them in their life, and maybe try to like not forcefully connect the dots, but like just see maybe how God was like speaking in those like moments, like, because we wanted to show people that you don't have to like exclusively listen to like just praise and worship music that comes out from these like places. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Whatever. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I like Bethel, cool. You can like Bethel. I just prefer like cooler people. Like,
Yeah.
I prefer like, one night a girl did Bruce Springsteen. She brought a Bruce Springsteen vinyl, and she like talked about how like I think her brother was sick or something, and like she just felt God's presence when she was like crying in her room one night when she was like listening to this song about Bruce Springsteen dealing with death himself. Like, and so that was kind of like the whole thing about Vinyl Church. It was like not contextualizing for the sake of it, for like that was our mission. Like, some people are probably thinking like, you can't just do that, blah blah blah, the sacred, where's the sacredness? We had actually also mixed the eulogy in between, so we would like listen to a song, read something from the liturgical calendar that was coinciding with the day that we were doing it, and then at the end we would break bread and drink grape juice and like perform the Apostles' Creed together, like as a declaration of like, like we're people who listen to records, but we're also people who like love Jesus. So like, porque no los dos, man. Like,
Exactly. That reminds me of a whole lot of things. It's first off though, I remember when I was in that program, I was there learning like pastoring stuff, and I was doing sermons, and it's like you learn how to preach and do sermons by doing it. So each time I got an opportunity, I would try to do it really differently than I'd done before and include things I hadn't included before to try to get better. And so I got an opportunity sometimes. I never got an opportunity to teach on a Sunday morning, but there's a Friday night service where mainly young adults would come.
Yeah.
And so I got an opportunity to do that a few times. And one time, it's like, there's been a few times where I like got a sermon idea that it felt like, this is the reason I'm on this planet, to give this one sermon. That's how important it feels. And so this was one of those, and it was about pretty much creativity and grace and the connection of those. And it involved a lot of stories and references to movies and art and culture, and a huge part of it was about when I try to go see Shia LaBeouf with a bag over his head saying, I am sorry. And at the same time, I was literally giving an overarching narrative of the entire Bible, of grace within that. And so it was a lot of stuff in it, but it all connected and all went together. And it was,
I mean, in our minds, it did.
Yeah, well, it did for other people too, and it was amazing, and other people liked it. There's a guy that even said it was his first time at that church, and because of my sermon, he's going to keep going
That's
to the
awesome.
church and all that, and it was awesome. But then my pastor at the time, he brought me into his office, and he told me, the whole time you were preaching, I was thinking, when is he going to talk about Jesus?
Oh, that's hilarious.
and that was like crazy to me, because I was like, the whole thing was about Jesus. What are you talking about? I'm just not saying the word, but it's all the same thing. And it's like you weren't listening to the whole thing. You were just picking out words and looking for Jesus's per minute almost. And
exactly. Which they do. People, there are preachers that do that stuff.
Yeah. And I also had developed depression at the time that was getting bad because of how alienated I felt. So for those two reasons, because of the sermon where he felt like I didn't mention Jesus enough and my depression, he told me, I don't want you preaching ever again at my church. Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. In all the things I've ever done in my life, and I've done some scummy things within my denomination, I've never been banned. So kudos to you, my friend. That's funny. Yeah. I would always tie whatever I was talking about in with a song. Like, I'm a music man first and foremost. Like, movies, the movie world is way too big for me. Like, people are like, oh, I'm a connoisseur of French cinema. You know, like, oh, cool, man. Like, I like Martin Scorsese, my guy. Like, you know, but I wasn't getting in trouble. I was actually getting admired from my professors. I like how we're having like opposite experiences, and like,
well, all my peers loved it.
Yeah,
but the authority figures didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm implying. Like, this is the one time I actually had a professor that like didn't feel obligated to be like, hey man, you're steering away from the gospel message. Like, same thing like you. Like, the guy's just like, but you didn't say Jesus. Like, it was so funny. I didn't know that this professor's favorite band was the Talking Heads. So I like did this like whole sermon series where it was all Talking Head songs, and then I like changed it to like Pink Floyd or something like that. And I would do crazy things to like wear shirts of the band to like coincide with my message and stuff like that. Like, I got into really weird, like cool stuff like that. And I just miss somebody telling me that was cool and normal. You know what I mean? Because like, I'm on the opposite end now of like, you're finding people that, you know, like myself, that you can actually talk about these things with. I'm actually on the end now where I am finding myself less and less like on the community side of like, oh, you like Batman and you see God in it. Like, that's crazy. Everybody else to me is just like, Jimmy, you're just weird, man. Like, you're just a weird guy. Like, it always amazes me. Like, I even sometimes family members are just like, dude, what happened, man? Like, you were the shining example of what a Foursquare youth pastor was gonna be, man, and now you just love vinyl and like smoking weed too much, man. I'm just like, I mean, that's normal for a 24-year-old. Like, that's kind of like I don't know, like, I'm just as normal as Jorge next door, man. Like, like I don't know. I'm starting to feel alienated in that sense, on the opposite end. Like, I don't know how many people that I'm speaking to actually like care about the things that I care about. But it's funny that I get the shtick from them about like how I'm not a real Christian because I don't care about the things that they care about anymore. Like, I'm not about Carl Lentz. I don't care about Hillsong. Like, I'm not into, I have nice shoes, but I'm not like into like, oh my God, man, do you see those Nike Off-Whites that Erwin McManus was wearing, man? Like, preacher sneakers on Instagram type of thing. Like, some kids actually think that page isn't a joke, I think. Like, I think they're like, oh man, like somebody's cataloging the cool sneakers that pastors have. And I'm like, I think you're missing the point, my guy. Like, I'm finding myself on the opposite end now. Like, I'm being scrutinized now instead of applauded as the word I'm looking. Maybe that's not the word I'm looking for. I'm not looking for applause, but I'm looking for like-minded individual. You know what I'm saying? Like, I miss the days of having more and more people around me that did think the way I think now, to the point where it's actually pushed me, combined with a bunch of other stuff that I've done within the past 5 years, to alienate myself from the church. Granted, I've done enough for myself to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. But at the same time, like, I'm not finding people like me enough that it's pushed me away from church going. And I don't care to go back, to be honest with you. Like, it doesn't interest me. So my dad is a pastor, and I was helping at his church for a while, but I'm such a liar. I'm such I hate myself for it, because I was just doing it to help my father. Like, I wasn't doing it because I genuinely cared, like, about the church itself or about its mission or its values, because it just felt like marketing to me. Like, I'm going to these places and it's just like, we love people, man. We just love people. And it's like, no, you don't, because I don't feel loved by you people. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I was like serving coffee and I was playing on the worship team, and I just like, it kind of pushed me to go to New York in the first place, because I reached this point where I was just like, I can't talk about the things I want to talk about anymore. And I got to the point where I was so lazy about trying to find a community that it, like, because you can just be like, Jimmy, just find a community. Like, but it's just so exhausting to just hop from place to place just for like the sake of somebody being like, hey man, you like this DJ? I like that DJ too, man. Like let's talk about it. Like, what's your favorite book of the Bible? Like, too. Like, I miss those kind of people. And in my circles here in the Valley, I'm finding it less and less, man. Like, people like Johnny Swim. Do you know Johnny Swim?
No.
People like Johnny Swim. And they're not even necessarily Christian. They just happen to, like, they are believers, but they're not a Christian band. Mm-hmm. So it's, like, cool to, like Johnny Swim. But, like, I love the Deftones, and I like Slayer. I love Jesus, and I still listen to Slayer. Call me a liar, a bigot, whatever you want to call me, man. But even in Slayer, I still find God, man. And I don't have anybody to really talk about that with anymore. I mean, I have Adam. I love Adam. Shouts out. You know him. He's a great guy. Yeah. He loves Slayer, too, you know? But, I'm at a crossroads, man, and I don't know how to feel about it.
When you say about how you don't want to go back to the church you're a part of, or how people do want you to go back, I think the key problematic word there is back, because to me it sounds like backwards. And it's like, it would make no sense for you to go back.
There's no reason I should. There's nothing there for me.
Not at all. And what frustrates me is when people talk about evangelicalism as if it is Christianity itself. It's like it's a corner of Christianity. And I'm in a place right now where I am so like removed from that world that I don't even think much about it anymore. I'm constantly thinking of spirituality and Jesus and things that other Christians are doing, more progressive Christians, or even people in more mainline denominations. But like, all that stuff is off my radar now, and it feels good. And it's like, it's so weird to think that there are people out there who leave and then still spend years talking about how bad it was and don't want to like move forward.
Yeah, that's what I don't want to do.
Yeah,
I'm tired of
and
that.
You're
too.
definitely not that person. You definitely are looking forward. You can be. You have plenty to complain about, but you look forward.
Yeah, I survived the Foursquare denomination. I'm gonna put you all on blast. Let's get it.
Yeah, which is the same denomination I was in.
That's right. You were. Yeah, you were a Foursquare boy.
Before we get there, you did have, I think, a really strange time there. Like, one of the things I think about a lot is a story you shared. Well, first off, so you went to Bible college.
Went to Bible college, yeah.
How was were you like looking forward to going to Bible college when you were young?
I did. To be honest with you, okay, so it stems from a little bit of a personal story. So I was told at a young age that I should look into being a youth pastor. I never felt directly called by God, right? Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm at summer camp. Oh, I can't wait to hear the voice of God. God told me to be a dentist. Like, I didn't have a similar experience where I was being prayed over, and I had this vision of me standing on a stage with a microphone, and I was like speaking, and call that whatever you will, you know, as an experience. Like, and I went to my pastor and I was like, hey, I kept seeing this picture. And so from there on, he took it as like, God wants you to be a youth pastor, man. This is it, Jimmy. Like, you're going to be under my wing. And he did. He became a father figure, like took care of me. Like, I was with him all the time, taught me everything about Foursquare doctrine in general. Like, made me leader of like all these groups. Like, I was like his kid, man. Like, and then when I got a little older, I was, starting to dwindle a little bit. Like, I was so heavily involved that it just physically exhausted me. Like, I was 16, 17 years old, and I was like, dude, I'm so tired now. I have to do this for the rest of my life. Like, I don't want to do this. So I ended up signing up for my local college, Cal State University Northridge. Shouts out to the Matadors. And I wanted to make a difference in the world, but it not necessarily be in the church. So I wanted to study environmental science and political science, because I wanted to be like an environmental, like, not lawyer, I don't know. I just wanted to be like somebody that was like tackling the system of like, you know, throw away your garbage, you freaking, you know, lazy ass people. Like, and then I had a friend that I was kind of in a band with. His name's David. And David was a cool guy. I just wanted to be like him, right? Like, coolest dude I ever met. Heck of a drummer. He took his own life when we were 16 or 17. So it all just happened right away. Like, I was already on my way to going to this college. Like I already had gotten my acceptance. So he goes, he's gone. And his parents had found a list on his computer of things that he wanted to do to like fix his life. Because he felt like he wasn't like on a good track or something. I don't know. But the very first thing on the list was that he wanted to like go to church and find God or something like that. So I had no idea. Like I was already still going to my youth group, but I was like empty inside about going there. And didn't know that my homie was struggling with depression and was like, oh, I'm checking out my local youth group. It's over here in Burbank. It's this beautiful Armenian church, like beautiful church. I'll take you sometime. We can check it out. And I was like, dang, son, like my kid wanted to find God and I wasn't around. Like I felt just utterly selfish. And I was just like, dude, like there's more important things than just the world. Like I was like, I can care about nature and I can go to Bible college. So my pastor was like, it's never too late to go to Life Pacific College. And I was like, let's get it. So I dropped my acceptance to Cal State Northridge, mustered up whatever money we could for the application fee. And then like I went into Bible college going, I'm going to make sure kids never miss an opportunity to hear about Jesus again. Like I was in that thing, man.
Yeah.
And I served at 3 or 4 churches during my tenure at LPC. And I was always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I was never an official pastor, but I was always like an assistant or an intern. But I did everything. You name it, I like did it. Like I didn't have a title, I didn't get paid, but my God, I got worked to the bone, bro. Like,
were you the president of the school?
Yeah,
president?
My senior year. Yeah, it was. That came at controversy as well.
Okay.
Because I got kicked out of the school when I was a sophomore. Because we were sharing homework and we got caught for plagiarism on 2 or 3 accounts. And by the school's rules, like you're done after like 2 or 3. And we already knew they kind of didn't want me to be there anyway. Like there was like people that weren't a fan of me and my friends because like my friends were loud. I'm loud. We would like jump off stuff and just bother people. So you can always kind of feel just like, you know how like cells in our body know when it's like a virus, so it'll like try to kick it out. That's what it felt like. And I was like 18, 19 and I was just like, dang, like this is crazy. Like they don't want me here. Like, and I was told I was gone. I got kicked out, ended up sleeping in a house with like 9 people with that professor that I mentioned earlier. And so he was like, if you want to go back, I can help you. Helped me get back in. And when I got back, I was like, I'm going to prove to these people that I'm not who they think I am. Like, so, but I was on a mission as well. I was like, I'm going to still be who I am, but I'm going to do everything in my power to like be involved in the school. So come senior year, everybody's like, oh my God, Jimmy, you have such a heart for the campus. You should like be school president. And I was so involved in the school by that point already. I had already been previously serving in the Associated Student Body. I ran for president, didn't do any advertisement, didn't do anything. Like everybody who ran for president would always like do spiels in the courtyard and like give out cupcakes and be like, here's my vision for the school. And I didn't do any of that. Didn't have a running platform, didn't have a theme in mind because you're supposed to have a theme for the school for the next calendar year. I had nothing. I was just like, if you vote for me, it's because you know that I'll care about you more than anybody else will. And like, we have to do like speeches, right? Because it's like, it's not debates, it's like speeches. So I was literally in the shower the morning of, and I was just like, dang, what am I going to talk about? Like, I fucking like made it up in the shower. Like, I went to the, because I was just like, dude, people know who I am. Like, and that wasn't the basis alone of why I knew I could win, but I knew that they knew what I was about. I knew that they knew that I was willing to spend time with them that other people weren't, because previous life presidents that we had didn't do that. They just got the title and then they just ran the school under their regime. Like, if I'm being clear on that idea, like, I never felt that any president I had at any time, with the exception of one, her name is Erica, lovely woman of God. Everybody else besides Erica was like just so buns, bro. Like they just wanted the office. They just wanted the money. Like, I can tell that, you know what I mean? And so like, you make no money off that thing, by the way. Like, you figure out quick, like you make no money. But I always would leave my door open in my dorm. My roommate and I, Adam, again, we'd stay up all night, man, just meeting with people. Like, kids are like, I'm struggling with pornography. I want to kill myself. I think I'm gay. Like, I only trust you people to talk to about that stuff. And so we started doing this thing in the middle of our school courtyard called Transparency and Chill, because Netflix and Chill had started to be the meme at the time.
For sure.
And so we would have kids coming to this gazebo in the middle of our courtyard just to, like, seek out free counseling from my buddy and I, because they knew that we knew what it was like to be like them, you know, like kind of outcasted, kind of underlooked. Maybe we couldn't talk about certain things because we feared the worst, because people play games at that school, man. If they know something about you, you don't know who's going to report you. Like, people have been ratted out, like, because we have really strict rules. I mean, if you're going to Bible college, yeah, you shouldn't be having sex, or you shouldn't be getting drunk, or like smoking weed and stuff like that. But people would confide in other people, and then they'd go and they'd just tell on them and get them kicked out. Like, it was a common thing. Like, kids sold Adderall for Taco Bell, and they were like, the guy who like he sold it to was like, hey, thanks for the Adderall, and then went and turned him in.
Oh, jeez.
And so, like, by the time I was ready to run for president, I knew that people knew that I wasn't a snitch,
Right.
that I was their homie, that I would be there for them every hour of the day. So I did it. I won. I won. And I did this impassioned speech saying those points. I'm like, I literally got up on the mic and I was like, you know me and I know you better than those people know you. I will be here for you. And I won. And I ended up getting fired by February because, so I won. I served a tenure as like the summer. Like, I spent the summer prepping for the new year. Come fall time, we ran events, ran a school dance, all that kind of mumbo jumbo. And then come February, I was at my friend Adam moved into a house. Some people came over and they were already drunk or they were getting drunk. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'll kick it with you guys. I got offered a beer and I took it. And the guy who gave me the beer turned me in. So I got fucking fired, bro. Like, I could not catch a break at the school. I shouldn't have taken the beer, obviously. Like,
wow.
Because you can't do that at school. It was my first time offense, so they couldn't kick me out. Like, I just got fired. I got, like, almost publicly kind of shamed, but at the same time, everybody knew the situation. So it was like, it was a dividing factor for a lot of people. Like, oh, Jimmy deserved it. Equally, maybe even more people were like, nah, man, that guy fought for us and you just did that. Like, you just turned him in. Like, I would get in trouble-ish because I would, like, help out school money. Like, I would divvy the money to, like, causes that I cared more about because I felt that they were better for, like, the community. They had started a multicultural student union. And the guy who ran it, he's a little hardcore on, I'd say, like, comparatively to Malcolm X, like, his theology and his, like, actions and his like, just method of speaking even. And I gave them a lot of money. And I got in trouble for that. People were like, why? I'm like, because they're black and they need it. Like, they need representation. Why am I going to give you money for your golf club if you already have money for your golf club? Like, they need money to get off the ground too, bro. Like, I fought the power at that school, and the power didn't like that, man. Like, I don't know. That's just like the surface of it all. Yeah. Because there's way more in between. How much time we got?
It's we got all the time. But it's interesting to me that some of the stuff you did at that school, to me, seems like what the most faithful person should be doing. But if it's mixed with some problematic actions like taking a beer or saying some cuss words or whatever.
Yeah, forgive me for my cuss. Am I allowed to cuss on your podcast?
Yeah. Okay. It's like people think, it's like they discount everything you did. Yeah. All the good you do. Yeah.
Dude, I said the word shit in class one day, and it was already like, no, you're the school president. Oh, I had a fuck Trump sticker on my car.
Oh my God, bro. Okay.
I had a
Wasn't that before he was even president? Like he was running?
He was running for president. Yeah. And I was running for president.
You were early on the Trump hate.
I was dumb early, bro. You know what's crazy? So I had my car and I had the sticker on it, and then like the powers that be were like, we cannot have that. And they're like, Jimmy, do you know whose car that is? And I was like, well, actually, yes, I do. It's my car. And they're like, you can't have that. And I was just like, I know my constitutional rights. Like, there's nowhere in the rules of your school that say that I can't express my constitutional rights. And so I was like, this is freedom of speech. And then in the middle of the night, they went and took the sticker off my car for me.
Whoa.
Yeah. Little did they know, you fucking bitches, I had a stack of them. Oh my God. Because they were $1.
From where?
A band called The World is a Beautiful Place, and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die.
Wow.
That's the name of the band. And I bought a pile of them. I spent $10, got 10 stickers, so every time they peel my sticker off, I put it right back on. And I had a Bernie Sanders sticker on my car.
Wow.
I would get trash thrown at my car. Like I would find In-N-Out milkshake residue.
That's it sounds intense, dude.
It was a great time though. I loved it. I loved being countercultural. Like I said, like it's just my MO, bro.
Tell me again about the time you showed up in the cafeteria with a Tribe Called Quest shirt.
Oh yeah, man. It wasn't even the cafeteria. We were on our way to chapel.
Okay.
So you have to go to chapel mandatorily twice a week, Tuesday and Wednesday. I was on my way there, and a professor stopped me and was like, "Hey, man, I think you should go change." And I was like, "You think I should go change?" I was like, "My character?" And he's like, no, well, that too. But he's like, "Your outfit." And I'm like, "What's wrong with my outfit?" I was wearing a Tribe Called Quest. Shouts out to one of the greatest hip hop groups of all time.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace to the 5-footer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was wearing this almost bright yellow. It's like a mustard, but it was kind of brighter yellow Tribe Called Quest t-shirt. And I had a pink 99-cent store backpack. I'm talking like this thing's generic, like, you know, gender stereotype pink. Like, this is a girl's backpack. And my professor was like, "You look kind of gay." And I was like, "You can't say that." Like, you have no right to say that to anybody, let alone even me, my guy. And I was like, "Okay, no." And I like walked away, and then I went into the chapel and I was like, "Everybody, I look gay." Like, I was just like, "Right?" And then everybody's like, okay. Like, they were just uncomfortable. I was like, no. It's like, I look gay, right? I look gay. You can say it, right? Because apparently that's okay to say. And then like, the guy didn't get in trouble.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Nothing
you told me
happened.
that earlier today, and it was just, that's so weird to me.
I still have that shirt too.
Yeah, that's good.
Can't take that from me, Mick. Yeah, I know you're gonna listen to this, Mick. I'm out here.
And now, this is the story that I was like wanting to kind of lead up to, because this is one of my favorites from you. Is when what was your major actually?
Transformational ministry with an emphasis in intercultural studies.
What does that mean?
Transformational ministry is for the people that didn't want to study Greek and Hebrew.
Okay.
So you study just like the practicality of church. You study you study people, and you study how to do church rather than just like biblical study. Biblical studies is just the generic degree. So then I chose intercultural studies as my focus, because there's no such thing as minors. It's a focus. So my classes were geared towards me being a missionary. Like, so I took like classes like that, like microeconomic type stuff. Like I did a little bit of traveling, went to Africa, been to Panama, Mexico, all that kind of stuff. It's cool stuff.
You study all these different cultures and different religions?
Different religions, different cultures, yeah. I was a friend to many, many Muslims. I have a great story with some Muslim people that, like, told their mosque that I converted.
How did that happen?
We went to a mosque for a project because we had to do, like, a cross-countercultural examination paper. So basically, for you people that can't keep up, it means that I had to go study what it's like to be them. Mm-hmm. So I went to a mosque and did not know this. This is actually factual. There's proof of this.
Okay.
A lot of people that visit that particular mosque are on a no-fly list. They can't board airplanes due to safety reasons in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. For they believe that they're radical. They've been evaluated by the FBI.
Wow.
For their actions in the name of Allah.
I didn't even know FBI does that.
I don't know. They must have been on some type of plane already, and somebody had something on them. You know what I mean, like a shank or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were informed after. My friend was like, "Which mosque did you go to?" We told him. He's like, "That's a no-fly list mosque, Jimmy. Like, you were in real stuff." So we visit this mosque. They give us Qurans, and we go through the whole service, and then they start speaking Arabic, and they're in front of the whole congregation, and they all start dancing and like clapping and cheering, and I was like, what's going on? And our translator was like, they just told everybody that you converted to Islam and are forsaking Jesus. Oh. And I was like, what are you, what do we want with the what? And then they were our ride. So we thought they were taking us back to this, me and a friend, we thought they were taking us back to school. And we went to their house instead. And inside was a family waiting for us, and they prepared us a whole meal. So I was like, okay, we can't say no. That's like a thing with Islamic people. Like, if they're giving you a gift, like, you have to engage in the honor shame system here. Like, you can't shame them and say no. So we're like, damn it, they know that. They know that we know that.
Yeah.
So we sat down for this dinner, and so we're having a good time, laughing. Glasses are clinking. We're drinking water. FLPC is listening to this. And then all of a sudden the guy goes, now, why do you think Jesus is God? And I was like, well, here we go. Yeah. And so I got into this whole 3-hour defense of my faith conversation. Wow. They wanted us to convert to Islam and forsake Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. They're like, he's just a man. He's in the Quran. He's just a man. He's just a teacher. He was a good man. And that's it. He wasn't born immaculately. He's not who you say he is. I need you to declare that right now. And I was just like, I literally was like, thank you for the food. I need you to take us home, my guy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had a really fun time with my degree. What's the story you were talking about?
Well, then first off, just to be clear, you have always seemed to have an open and affirming stance to other faiths, though. Oh,
always. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I at one point I wanted to convert to Buddhism, actually.
Why?
It seemed like I can be a peaceful person and not have to be a part of. I was on this like whole like hate Christianity train when I was like 15. Okay. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, they did kill a lot of people. The Crusade's not a cool thing, man. Yeah. So I was like, one of my friends was Buddhist, and so she was teaching me her faith, and I constantly thought about converting to Buddhism because I could practice the same things with Christianity, but not have to be associated with terrible people. Because Westboro Baptist Church was at the height of the media at the time. Yeah. And I was like, dude, that's what people think of me. Like, because they're like, oh, you're a Christian? Oh, you must be like those Westboro Baptist people. You hate gays. And I'm like, no, my best friends are gay. They're like, but you hate them. And I'm like, no. Like, but I've always had an open faith.
And you have to write papers about other faiths? And did you write a paper where you affirmed that all these faiths share a similar God?
I did write a paper.
Then what happened?
I got in trouble for that.
Wait, what did you write in the paper?
This
is what I was leaning to.
There's a book called Eternity in Their Hearts.
Okay.
I forgot who the author was. It's been like 3 years. And the book basically takes you through this historical examination of like South America, China, just major continent type stuff. And so within local lore, you hear these stories about people experiencing figures that meet the Jesus, checklist. Like there was an Incan guy, like he was a king, but he considered himself a god. But then he started receiving visions of a one god saying, I am the one God, and then explaining to this Incan person what is basically a messianic figure. So he, as the king, was like, I am not a god. There is only one God, and he has a son, and we're going to switch to that faith. He gets usurped, and the guy's like, that guy's lying. I'm your king now, and I'm your God. Worship me. And, like, destroyed as much as he could of, like, this, like, tale of, like, one God. God has a son. And the same thing in, like, particular sect of Buddhism, people can fact check me on this kind of stuff, because it's been a couple years. But there's a figure in a specific branch of Buddhism where they talk about a Buddha who is to come, that the world is going to be so lawless that this supreme Buddha is supposed to return, and it kind of matches. That's my clock. Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
The battery dies from time to time, and it's like like in the middle of the night.
That's creepy. Dude.
It's actually disturbing. It's a gift from my great grandmother.
It's all out of tune.
It's because the batteries die on it so fast. I think it's from like the 80s.
Wow.
I wrote about this Buddha who is to come. Yeah. And the way that this Buddha returns in this state of lawlessness almost mirrors the way that Revelations predicts Jesus coming back to like sanctify the world as well.
Yeah.
Because that's the idea of Revelations, right? That's like the world has gone to absolute garbage. God's going to come back with a holy fire type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a paper about that. So I was like, why do we hate these religions? Why do we call these people our enemies when they're experiencing the same God we are, just in different ways? And who's to say they didn't contextualize the message they heard to fit their setting, and how their worldview, shaped everything about who they were. So like, what if they were communicating with God, but they're so deep into their honor shame system, or they're so deep into their other understandings of like, this God is in charge of the wind, this God is in charge of that like the gospel message just gets swept up in human error. And so I backed it up using this book. And your boy didn't go well with a lot of professors, my guy. I'll tell you
what
that.
What happened?
No, just a lot of scolding, to be honest with you.
They scolded you?
A lot of scolding. There were some professors that were like, I agree with you, but I can't tell you I agree with you publicly because I'll lose my job. Oh. And so like, my professor in the class, she's like, yeah, I mean, you go deep with your idea for sure. She's like, your base idea is not wrong. It's how I presented it to her. She's like, I still gave you an A on the paper. You followed the format. That's why you get an A. My other intercultural studies professors were like, you're not far off, man. Like, but we get called universalists at that point. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, everybody's like, oh no, because the Bible's so clear. It says that I am who I am. And like, so you can't say that God was this like Incan warrior person. And I'm just like, I'm not saying that God, I'm saying that God was communicating to this people group, but because of that's the only thing like they've ever known, they were like, oh man, it's got to be this Incan warrior God. That's what I'm saying. Like, people contextualize based off their worldview, but who's to say that it wasn't Jehovah? Who's to say that it wasn't Yahweh? Like, and that paper didn't get me far. Didn't get me far in life. So, but like, I went through the list, guys. Like, I was like, I pulled out every major world faith and was like, look at all these instances of where people had a messianic figure prophesied to them within their faiths, and how people came in and their thirst for power made them be like, scratch that, I'm God. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, you can read. So the book is called Eternity in Their Hearts. You can get it on Kindle. Give it a read. They're not paying me to say this. Right. I'm saying this because I want to.
Oh man,
it's a great book. I still have it.
The most mind blowing part to me is these teachers telling you, I agree with you, but I can't publicly tell you that I agree. Yeah. And it must have been like three of them. Three. It was like, because it's not a big school, but like, of those three, I knew it would be those three. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it makes me think, like, when I was very frustrated when I was leaving evangelicalism with certain pastors that I knew it's like, I know you've studied the things I've studied. Why haven't you progressed on these certain things?
They just don't. They don't lose their jobs.
Well, yeah. I think the thing that I determined is that I think several people, they come to a fork in the road when they're studying something, and they come upon something really revealing and life-changing, and it's like, it makes you question everything. You have a choice to either choose loyalty to the tribe and just forget about it, or just read the opposite view and go with that, or honesty to the truth, and you have to change.
Yeah, honesty didn't get me far.
Right, and so I think so many these ministers that I knew that I was confused about why they weren't progressing is because they kept picking loyalty when I picked honesty. Yeah. And I just kept being honest until I no longer fit in, and I think you did too.
Oh yeah, dude. I got expunged. Like, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Like, by the time I was ready to graduate, they were just like, I don't know. I also graduated in my Gucci flip-flops.
That's lit.
Did you know that?
No.
I couldn't find my shoes. Genuinely couldn't, and they thought I was lying. And I was like, I'm gonna walk. Like, you can't stop me, because they were gonna stop me. Yeah. And so I was like, let me make a parade of myself, because when we're graduating, they use the cameras that are in the church. So we were like on big screens. This is Angela's Temple in Echo Park in Los Angeles. Big church. And I went up to the step and I like put my foot up, and you could just me like I was like dusting off my Gucci. I was just like, what is it? What it do? And it's like, you're not impressed by it. I can see it in your face. But like other people in the building, it was either like pure shock or it was pure support. Like I had like all those kids we were talking about earlier that like love preacher sneakers type of people. They were like, yo, that's lit, man. Like this guy's crazy, bruv. Like this guy's wild, man. Like he's wearing Gucci. What? At Angela's Temple? Amy Summer McPherson's church, bruh?
Yeah.
Like it was an absolute scene, my friend. And to me, it was nothing. That's not even the worst thing I've done.
Right. Well, that's why I'm not impressed, because dude, it's still a cool story. But
I've broken shit at life.
I know, but I'm saying it, like that stuff to me is just like
it's normal,
and I very much know that in the future of religion, the wildest ideas me and you say will be looked at as conservative.
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, easy. That's why I like laugh at people who don't see eye to eye with us. I'm not asking people to see eye to eye with us, but don't pretend like this is the utmost worst thing that could possibly ever happen, because the way that kids can go with what we're talking about, dude, it's gonna be so cliche in like 15 years probably, maybe even 5. Mm-hmm. Like I think it's just gonna be cool. I think it's gonna reach a point where it's cool to be like us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it kind of is already.
And then it's going to be lame because that's old people stuff.
Yeah. Like we're going to be like, oh, you guys purposely don't listen to Jeremy Riddle? Yeah, okay. Like, it's not cool to be ironic anymore, guys. It's not 2010, like, when it was, like, cool to be ironic. Like,
right. So you a universalist then, or what?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, all those terms are kind of silly.
Terms are silly. Every term is silly to me.
Yeah.
And maybe there is supposed to be purpose in terms.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Well, to simplify, but eventually you need new ones. But what's funny is I when I was at that church I was at, and I became the director of student ministries, and I was on my way to get a pastoral license, and I started conversations with my pastor about it. And I said, at first I was like, I don't plan on doing a church within this denomination. And he's like, what? Why?
Yeah,
and
that's what they train you for.
And then I said, I just don't feel like I would fit in. And he like made me reconsider it. So he said, he like convinced me that this thing is wider than you may think it is. Like there's more diversity than you may think there is. And so I said, okay. And then he said, well, what are some of the things that you think you disagree with? And the first one I said, well, stuff on hell. And
you're talking about Foursquare's view on it?
Yeah. And yeah, so Foursquare is like strict. There is an eternal hell that a bunch of people get sent to forever, to be tortured forever. And I felt like that's a misinterpretation of Scripture.
Oh yeah, I got in trouble for that too.
Exactly. So, and there have been people affirming a God that welcomes and includes and renews and reconciles all people since the beginning of Christianity.
Which is what I argued in school too.
Exactly. So it's so I had we ended up like having a month-long discussion about this. Where we were going back and forth, and he told me to write up my idea of this stuff, and with like based on Scripture and all that, and he said he would write one too on his stance. And I just went all out and like pointed to the Scriptures that point to a universal salvation, pointed to how a lot of Scriptures that seem to be talking about eternal hell are often can also be interpreted as a temporary pruning in a way, and how
I've said that
exactly. And the character of God throughout the entire Bible is when this God punishes, it's for the purpose of restoration. Mm-hmm. So and then he wrote back his whole thing, and then he ended up saying like eventually something about like by that point I was into the idea of being a pastor in Foursquare. So then he told me that maybe I don't think you can if you think like this, and then I kind of backpedaled a bit. But what's funny is eventually when I left, I had tons of other things. But the thing was, that was just number one on the list. He wasn't aware that that was number one on a long list that we just got stuck on.
Yeah.
And then when I left, it was like no more backpedaling. It was just like, okay, obviously, there's no
you
eternal
just
hell.
get to the place where you just roll with it, man. Like, that's what happened to me too. Like I ended up, by the time I was graduating, serving at a non-denominational church, and I felt more at home there. Like I was actually happy to be a slave to their like internship. It was a great internship. I had a great time. And then like you just get in trouble for just thinking not radical ideas. Like they're not radical to me anymore. Like it's not a radical idea to think that there isn't a hell. And if you think that that's a radical idea, then like, bro, step it up. You're in level 1, my guy.
Yeah.
You're level 1 of a level infinity game.
Well, actually, the conclusion I came to with our debate with that pastor was that, because he kept telling me it's my understanding is not orthodox, or no, he said it doesn't match up with tradition and orthodoxy and all that. And I said, it like we're just looking at different streams of orthodoxy, because there's always been the stream that I'm saying and the stream that you're saying, and I ended up saying that we're just looking at it with different lenses.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 big major views of hell in the Bible. One, there's plenty of scriptures that seem to point to universal salvation, plenty of scriptures that seem to point to eternal hell, and plenty of scriptures that seem to point to annihilationism, which is the people that are supposed to get sent to hell just cease to exist. They don't get tortured forever.
I have friends that would consider themselves like that.
So, and there's verses that support all 3 of those.
Yeah.
But what you do is just pick a list and use that as a lens to view those other scriptures. So it's like, if you're a more universal salvation kind of guy, you interpret those verses that seem to be about eternal hell as they're talking about something else and not eternal. And if you believe in eternal hell, you use that as a lens to the universal scriptures as it doesn't really mean all.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
So I said, we're literally just picking a lens. And yeah, he didn't agree. But
they never do.
And by what I just said is also why it seems strange to say, yeah, I'm a universalist, because I acknowledge that it's like all those ideas are in there. And I ultimately don't know what happens after we die.
Me either. I'm okay with whatever, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know.
I have no clue whatsoever.
What Rick and Morty say, they're like, there is no afterlife, it just goes black when you die. And I was like eating, Cheetos on my couch, and I was like, maybe they're right.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I've got it wrong. And I'm not saying that from a place of doubt. I'm just literally like, I just like being open-minded. Maybe heaven isn't what we think it is anyway. And plus, heaven isn't what we think it is anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of people's understanding of heaven is very materialistic.
Yeah, the very description of it itself is from a poor Jewish man who was in prison. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't trust that. Like, who cares? who actually cares that there's like diadems and like streets of gold? That has nothing to do with like eternal salvation. What does gold mean in a realm where gold shouldn't even exist or matter? Like.
Plus, heaven and hell, like the ideas of an afterlife, comes from the Greeks.
It does.
It's nowhere in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible, and even in the Hebrew Bible, there's in Ecclesiastes it says everyone ceases to exist after they die, and it's and it seems to stem from people who are committed to their faith, particularly Jewish people. And they experience oppression and slavery and genocide by these big empires, and they feel like there is no way this is it. If this is life, there has to be something else after, where all these people I've seen murdered for their faith get some sort of reward, and all the people I saw kill them get some sort of punishment. And that got melded into Hellenistic Judaism, and then a bunch of Hellenistic Jews followed Jesus.
Yeah. And then here we are in 2019. Still spoon feeding the masses, man.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, maybe there is streets of gold there, and maybe it means something. But I'll tell you that, like, despite everything I've said tonight, I don't necessarily know what I still believe. All I genuinely care about is there's a creator. The creator gave us a savior, and that's the only thing that matters to me. Everything else in between is something that can be examined. I mean, it should be, not ripped apart, but like give yourself room to just be like, what the hell am I reading? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to be, a person of culture. Like, why are we afraid of that? I think that you can find more lessons in the streets, because that's where Jesus found it.
Yeah.
Everything anyway. Like, but there's more lessons in the Anthony Kiedis by the Red Hot Chili Pepper singer. He wrote a book, and like by the grace of God, the man's still alive, even though he like basically drank heroin for a living. Like I can find the gospel in there somewhere. Like, and it's not a scary world, people. It's not. It can be. We're making it a scary world, but I don't know. Let me ask you a question, because I actually kind of have to dip out on you in a second. Here. What's something you're enjoying right now, culturally? Movie. It could be a movie, show, song.
I'm trying to think. I enjoy creatively. I really admire a lot of trap music artists coming out of Atlanta who are committed to their craft in a way that isn't hesitant and just soaked in perfectionism, but it's just about just create. Like a lot of these guys coming in out of Atlanta go in the studio, create 10 songs a day, and then wake up the next day and do it again, 10 to 20 songs a day. And like I was telling you earlier, how like Lil Uzi Vert, there's this video where a guy comes up to him on the street and he's like, "Hey, I heard you were making songs with Young Thug," and he was like, "Oh yeah, we got like 4,000 songs." He's like, "What, really?" He's like, "Yeah, we got like 4,000 songs." And he's like, "Well, when are we gonna hear them?" And he's like, "When do you want to hear them?" And he's like, "Well, soon." And he's like, "All right, I'll see what I can do." And that's just the case for so many of these artists, which is very different than any other genre I've heard of. And so I'm fascinated with that approach to creativity right now.
That's awesome.
And plus, you could probably relate with this. So much of, like, I feel like one of my main gifts is preaching. In my experience of preaching, I've always been way more inspired by artists than other preachers.
Yeah. No, me too. Always.
So it's
always,
like,
even to this day.
Yeah.
Even when I was like a devout Christian kid.
Yeah. So it's all connected. Yeah. And like I said, this stuff will not be radical in the near future.
It won't be.
And we are a corner of this faith talk that I hope people can listen to and find ways to have it help them get a more healthy and engaged faith. That's what my mission is. And
that's a great mission to have. I think you're a great guy for doing that. I'm on another opposite end of it. I'm just enjoying life.
Enjoying life.
So maybe I'll get swept up in your charismatic
Well,
approach.
that's at the same time, you're still a very charismatic, faithful person, committed to this stuff, but you're just speaking a different language than a lot of other people. And so it seems like you're not.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You're just using other words.
Yeah, thanks for understanding me. I'm listening to...
what are you enjoying right now?
The new Anderson .Paak album. Mm-hmm. He had Oxnard and then Ventura. And I think it's important to listen to people's stories, especially people of color. Shouts out, you know what I'm saying? If you're not listening to a person of color, do yourself a favor. I think that when people tell the story about where they're coming from and how it shaped them, that's the gospel too, in my mind. They've been transformed by their environment and the people around it. Maybe God's in that. I don't know. But Anderson .Paak, Oxnard, and Ventura. Listen to the stories. Listen to the songs. It gets a little, obviously, like, rappy. Like, people are like, oh, money and women. Yeah, that's called entertainment, people. That's called entertainment. But other than that, he's talking about what it's like to be a kid from where he's from. And you can't ever go wrong with an album like that. Mm-hmm. So, hey, thanks for your time, though, man.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. You want to plug anything?
Not yet. My name is Jimmy Santiago. I go by the name Pedro Honey for my rock group that I will eventually be coming out with music with, hopefully. I got a demo. It's not that great, but it's great. But yeah, look for Pedro Honey in the future. Maybe you'll like me, maybe you won't.
Yeah.
God bless.
We'll stuff with you too.
Let's do it.
So, yeah, follow us at God Talk Pod, and I love you.
Love you.
All right, bye-bye.